Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, we are ready for the event.
ABC News, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Dr. Jennifer Ashton with ABC News. How do you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear. How do you hear us?
I hear you great. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to talk to you.
Likewise, I want to introduce you both to our ABC News audience. Dr. Kate Rubins, you are a second-time astronaut up at the space station. You're there for 6 months, and you are accompanied by U.S. Navy Commander Victor Glover, your first time in space, Commander. You're the flight engineer up there. So I want to start by welcoming you guys and telling you how thrilled I am to have this opportunity to speak with you. First of all, how is it going up there, and how are you feeling physically?
That's a great question, Dr. Ashton. I am enjoying every second of it, even things like moving a bag from one place to another. In the middle, I try to remember that I'm doing it in microgravity, and so I won't be able to do this forever. So I enjoy every moment that I'm up here, and I feel great. I actually really enjoy the fact that we just get to float around. All the work activities we do them floating, and it doesn't get old.
That's terrific. And Dr. Rubins, I want to jump right in. Your PhD is in cancer biology, but your research centered around HIV integration, and you truly are an expert in all things virus-related. So what's your impression on what's going on with the COVID pandemic, and how are you guys staying safe up there? What are your COVID protocols?
Yeah, that's a great question. COVID's affecting everything, including NASA and very specifically our launch preparations. So we have a health stabilization program before we launch. So all the astronauts go into quarantine, a soft quarantine around 3 weeks before launch and a hard quarantine at 2 weeks before launch. This time their families quarantined with them. I launched out of Kazakhstan, so I actually couldn't even have any family or friends travel. And we just keep everybody very safe by keeping them in isolation for at least 2 full weeks. We also did a lot of testing. That's critically important for our launch program was the testing phase of it to ensure that anybody who's launching to the space station is COVID negative. All of their close contacts are COVID negative, and we repeated those tests several times before launch. And that's been a successful program so far. And of course, we were all wearing masks pretty much any time I stepped outside my front door from about April or May on. I was in a mask on Earth. I think all my crewmates were as well. So that was really probably the number one thing we did to prevent COVID from coming to the International Space Station. It was really a combination of testing and masks, and I'm sure we'll see at some point in the future this start to match up with some of the vaccine programs that we have going.
Terrific. And also historic, you're up there during our presidential election, and Dr. Rubins, you voted in space. How was that for you?
Yeah, it's really a wonderful process. You know, we say as astronauts up here, it's really a privilege to vote from space, but we also consider it's an honor, but we consider it an obligation. It's a duty. It's one of the wonderful things that legislation has allowed us to participate in our civic process from space. And I think everybody up here takes that privilege really seriously. We know it's our right as an American citizen, and we just think it's wonderful to be able to exercise that right from space.
Oh, that's for sure. And Commander Glover, you are a parent. You are helping your children with their homework from space, which definitely earns you extra points. How is that going? And silly question, but is there a time difference? How do you manage that?
So it's going slowly. I thought I would be able to be a little more involved. The time difference is 6 hours for right now, and so they are generally not awake when I get up, and then when I check in the middle of the day, they're getting started with their homework or their schoolwork. So by the time they're doing homework, I'm usually ending my day. And so it's been a challenge. But the good thing is I have 4 daughters, and they are all able to help each other, and mom is home to help them out. So that it's been working out. And they all finished finals this past week, and they're on break now. So but I'm around to help them out if they need it, and I love doing it. That's one of the things I really miss being up here.
Well, with 4 daughters, it might be a little bit of a vacation being up there at the space station. I want to ask you also, Commander Glover, obviously the dad of 4 daughters, your children are obviously incredibly proud of you, but what do you think the message that they're getting from seeing you work with Dr. Rubins is in terms of educating and encouraging girls in STEM fields?
That's a great question, and I hope that they're seeing how important it is to attain a formal education as well as an informal education inside and outside the classroom, but to work hard. Achieving your dreams is one step at a time. She didn't just show up here on the station for a second time. There was a very long process of training that she went through to get here, as well as her previous career, like you mentioned, being an expert in infectious diseases and how to cure them. So I hope that they are inspired by that, and that they're also not daunted by the work. It is a lot of work. We have all worked very hard to get to this point, but it's worth it. Like I said, I'm enjoying every moment being up here, and I hope that they find that encouraging and inspiring.
Oh, I'm sure they do. As you know, we have just 4 minutes left. I want to do a deep dive on one of the specific areas of scientific research that I know you're studying up there at the International Space Station, the effect on heart cells, the cardiac myocyte cardinal heart study. Obviously, there are big effects of microgravity and gravity on the body. What can you tell us about what you've learned so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this study actually started out in 2016. The last time I was up here was the first round of growing cardiomyocytes. That was the first time we were able to grow cells for this really long duration in space and see how they're affected by microgravity. We know from a human side that there's a lot of challenges in our cardiovascular system. We're seeing blood flow reversed. There's a really interesting paper out about some potential clotting. So we're definitely worried about the vascular system. And your heart definitely changes on board. We've studied this for a number of years. Studying the cells and cell culture actually allows us, these are samples from patients. We have some healthy tissue, we have some diseased tissue, and we can study the contractile function, so how they beat on orbit. And Victor has seen this. When we do the microscopy for these experiments, we can watch them beat on board. And the difference this time is that we're actually able to do more different types of cells and cultures. So we can take a look at not only just the cardiomyocytes, but we can look at the fibroblasts surrounding them. And this is a mix of several tissues. So it really much more replicates the actual human heart and that real tissue in human heart. So we're taking a lot of data and a lot of samples. We're going to learn a ton from the gene expression. We're looking at protein samples from this. And then, of course, we're studying the contractile motion. So I expect there to be a lot of papers forthcoming, and we'll definitely keep you posted on findings.
Oh, well, that's fascinating, and I look forward to staying with it. And thanks for sharing a little of that with us. So in the 2.5 minutes we have left, I want to take it to some fun questions. Obviously, holidays are approaching. How do you guys celebrate the holidays that you observe up there in space? How will you celebrate New Year's?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard, but we've got a little contest ongoing with Mission Control in Houston. We're going to see who can make the better Christmas decoration to be announced on Christmas Eve, who the winner is. And we have to get creative up here. You know, we have limited resources in space. I haven't debuted it yet, but I made myself an elf hat out of part of a T-shirt and some duct tape, so my crewmates will get to enjoy that on Christmas morning. And we haven't got to New Year's yet. Right now, we're trying to find red and green things for Christmas.
Well, on behalf of us here at ABC News, and I do think I share the sentiments of everyone here on Earth in the United States, I want to thank you, Dr. Kate Rubins, U.S. Navy Commander and Flight Engineer Victor Glover. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing up there. Stay safe. And thank you so much for this time. I know you have a busy day. Stay well.
Thank you. You stay safe down there, and happy holidays to all of you.
Happy holidays.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the ABC News portion of our event. Please stand by for a checkout from Fox5.
Station, this is Dan Bowens with Fox5. How do you hear me?
Dan the man, I have you loud and clear. How do you read us from station?
So great, and it's such an exciting moment in space exploration. We're joined now by NASA astronauts Dr. Kate Rubins and Victor Glover from the International Space Station. Guys, I have to start, if I can, everyone down here talking about that historic alignment between Jupiter and Saturn. Did you guys catch a glimpse of that up there? What did you think?
Yeah, I was about to go to sleep last night, and I called down to Mission Control to say, hey, I was talking to my sister. She was telling me where she could see it in Nevada, and we thought about it. We're like, we're going once around the Earth every 90 minutes. We're going to need some trajectory data and some pointing assistance. So they took a look, and actually where we would have been able to see it on station is blocked by some structure. So unfortunately, we did not have a good viewing opportunity in space, but we really hope that everybody on the ground is following it. It just sounds like an amazing event.
And yeah, absolutely. But talking about that view of our world from where you are, such an astonishing sight. Is it a little extra perspective knowing some of the difficulties and chaos that everyone is dealing with down here right now, guys?
Absolutely. Looking out over out the cupola windows at all of those places that I've never been, and all of those familiar places that look so different from 250 miles up, it's a reminder that there are people all over the place going through all kinds of things, and it is a privilege and an honor to be here. But we, are constantly thinking about the folks that are down there dealing with whatever they may be dealing with as we bring 2020 to a close. But hopefully we're on our way towards things getting a lot better for a lot of people everywhere.
And we hope so. Dr. Rubins, I know you're doing some important work up there. Everyone's doing some important work up there, but you had a recent discovery with the radishes, harvesting some of those radishes. It might seem pretty simple, but this was a pretty significant experiment when it comes to some of the work that you're doing up there.
Yeah, this is one of the most fun things we get to do up here. It's pretty amazing when humans go into isolation like we are. We can see the Earth, we feel close to it, but at the same time, we are pretty isolated up here. And one of the things you miss the most after a long duration voyage is things like plants and nature. It sounds crazy, but just like wind and rain, we miss that. So getting a chance to see these plants up here was actually incredible. When I would open the habitat, every crew member on station would stop by. It's also really interesting from a scientific perspective. So we chose them because they resemble Arabidopsis, which is a model organism for plants. We can see what the changes are in leaf growth and root growth. We're taking gene expression to analyze what the RNA is doing in these plant samples, and then, of course, harvesting in them at the end. This is also a crop of interest for us in the future. They grow so fast, and they're incredibly nutritious. And so scientists are thinking about planning for long duration. How are we going to feed humans on the way to Mars? And this is all part of that scientific program.
So fascinating. And Victor, you're a U.S. Navy commander, and you've now piloted the NASA SpaceX Crew, the ISS, such a historic mission for so many reasons. And you've always credited STEM along your way as being something that's an inspiration. Can you talk about that?
Well, I believe that engineering is simply taking those basic physics principles and applying them to real-world problems. And so your ability to analyze or break things down into simple components and then synthesize answers out of those same simple components is what you learn in a STEM education. And I think those things are important for all of the challenges that we're facing nowadays, but it definitely is important for doing something like what we're doing up here on the International Space Station. And I'll say, Dan, the ride up on Crew Dragon Resilience was amazing. Didn't do a whole lot of flying. It's designed to do most of the things it needs to get to the space station and dock safely automatically, and it performed very well, but it was still an amazing ride. Most amazing thing I've done.
A pilot we both know had that exact question. And for both of you, Dr. Rubins and Victor, you guys are trailblazers in your own regard. Dr. Rubins, with your research, Victor, the first African-American to spend extended period of time on the ISS. What is your advice to all those young people out there who just look up at the stars and just dream of being where you are right now?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. I'm sure Victor does too. And part of my advice is I never let it hold me back, thinking, oh, I'm one of only a few females in the room. I just do my thing. Like, I just do what I'm going to do. I've got the right to be there. I'm a smart person. I blaze ahead, and I sort of ignore the fact that I may be not completely represented in every field that I am. And I think that's helpful. I think a lot of young girls are told you can't do science, you can't do math. And we just know that's not true. And so I think just being assertive, having the confidence to pursue your dreams, finding something you want to do, that you love to do, that you want to get up every day and do. And I think for a lot of young girls, that's starting to be things like science and engineering and robotics. And I'm excited to see that and what our future generations have.
And I've got 4 daughters, and I really hope they were listening to exactly what she said. But, you know, I also have some things I say everywhere that I go, no matter what your goal is to do this or anything else, to be gritty, or as I'll say lately, to be resilient, to be a lifelong learner, and to be a good teammate. And I think those things will pay dividends no matter what course you choose in life. Those things will help you to find and also have a good, healthy definition of success.
And you touched on it a little bit, but this is an important moment for space exploration. American ships are flying from America again and able to get our astronauts up there to the ISS. What are some of the things that you guys are working on now that are going to pave the way for future missions, maybe back to the moon or even further out to Mars?
Yeah, it's a beautiful sight. So I didn't have the privilege of arriving on Resilience with these guys, but I was able to open the hatch and greet them. And it's an we see it every day, so we can see their spacecraft from the cupola. And I have to take a moment every now and then and just look out. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful spaceship. And it's incredible to know that we have this launch capability again. Some of the things that we're doing for exploration are actually really looking at our lunar goals. So we have parts of spacesuits up here. We're looking at subsystems in spacesuits, trying to understand how we're going to cool these spacesuits on the lunar surface. We're looking at long-term storage of these spacesuits, what's going to happen to the water loops. So we've got a lot of different environmental life support things that we're testing in microgravity and long duration in space, and then a lot of different subparts of a spacesuit that's eventually going to be tested up here on the space station, not during our increment, but definitely in the next few years we're going to be actually taking that outside into vacuum and testing the full lunar suit to see how everything checks out.
Guys, there's about 2 minutes left. What are the plans for Christmas and spending the holidays 250 miles up above Earth?
Yeah, good question, Dan. We are going to have dinner and fellowship like we do. I mean, we are a family up here, and so Expedition 64, Kate and Mike, Shannon, Soichi, and the Sergeys, we all enjoy being around each other, and we're going to celebrate together. We'll be able to speak to our families as well. And also, I spend some time thinking about and praying for all the folks that don't get to be at home with their loved ones. You know, we understand that, we relate to it, and we'll be thinking about them as well.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Kate Rubins and Victor Glover, for your service up there and everything that you're doing right now for space exploration and setting this great example for all of us back down here on Earth.
Thanks, Dan. It was great talking to you. Stay safe, and happy holidays to everybody down there.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank Thank you,
Thank you, Houston.
From ABC News and Fox 5 station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.